But oh, I've always loved plants. I love plants. I love talking with plants, dealing with plants. There's a book that I read when I was studying architecture in Vancouver, I had this apartment with a mantelpiece and I put a sweet potato on them in water. And it started, but plants I've started way before that. But the sweet potato had these branches that were about a yard long coming off. And I was sitting on the sofa looking at this plant, and it was sort of like this, and then it turned like this, and then like that. And I thought, this plant's moving. An hour, it did a whole circle, you know, a big circle like this. And you could just watch it moving, and it would slide up, you know. But I had a book that I read at the same time called The Secret Life of the Plants. If you talk to plants and you play good music for them, music they like, different plants like different music, they will respond, which is really interesting. But I've always enjoyed plants. Oh, I bought this house about 25 years ago.
What year was that?
2000, I mean? Yeah, around 2000, 2003, I think, because I was building the studio 3 years after I bought this place.
Okay.
And we had, I think that year we had 7 hurricanes while I was building the studio. That was really exciting. I had a really good builder though. So I renovated this house and added on to the front and stuff like that because it was tiny. But my garden, you know, you say the garden is interesting. One of the things I don't like are lawns, not because they don't look good, but because they have all kinds of. In Florida, to have a lawn, you have to put down fungicide, pesticide, herbicides. You know, you've got so many things you got to put on, and they're all toxic. So the idea was to not have a lot of work. That I'm not too sure if I really succeeded there, but I wanted to have a garden that I didn't have any kind of pesticides and stuff. That was my goal. I wanted it to be neutral and to be able to survive without water if we went through a drought, even though I've got an irrigation system. That was the goal. The studio I built, I designed it myself. I designed the studio, and the goal was to get a northern window and to have enough room to work. But I didn't realize that an artist never has enough room in his studio, so I'd like to make it bigger. And the reason I bought it here was I didn't want this in my backyard because I already had, you know, an addition on the back of the house. So I put it over here because this walkway here is wide enough to get a truck down, so I can come around the back and so I can load things up. Anyway, it's officially a garage. But they were very impressed with the zoning department on how luxurious my garage was. Anyway, it worked out really well. So I added on a bathroom so that I didn't have to run across the street to have a pee, because to me that was like, so I did this, I took that off the house itself. So the plants, some of them just grow on their own. I have a problem with this tree here, the oak tree, which I just cut because it grows too high, too big, and during the hurricanes there's always a problem with them. So anyway, this is basically a table I have for cleaning brushes and doing stuff, and I have a fridge here. I keep all my paint in my fridge, so I have my stuff here because it stays for a long time. And luckily I bought a lot of paints whenever art supply stores were going out of business. So I've got tons of paint here, and that's basically where I keep it. I also keep my palette. I use Corel plates for my palette, but anyway, they're easy to clean.
You moved from Canada?
From Canada, yeah. And I had a salvage business in Canada. It was called Architectural Antiques, and I'd sell parts of old buildings. So I've kind of stuck with that theme both in my house and in my yard. So this, for example, is a fireplace that I got, which it was new, but it was missing the top. Somebody had broken the top, and but I found that in Naples. And it's amazing how much stuff you can find here, especially because people want usually new stuff. So anyway, and then Dillard's was getting rid of mannequins. So these are all from Dillard's. They were throwing them out, and I picked them up, and anyway, I enjoy them. The problem I have right now with the garden are the iguanas, which are endangered in Mexico because they've killed so many of them off. But here we've got them all over the place, and they eat everything. So My garden has been a bit iguanaized, and I've got a big one up there now. I've caught 25 of them, I think, 27 iguanas, but I got a big one about this big, lives up in that tree. At least in the afternoon he does. Yeah, there were some owls a few years ago. I had a family of baby owls that came out, and the mother was watching them, and they were very curious. I was having a class, and they were very curious at looking, and I saw them one day and then they disappeared. I've never seen them since, but they were really cute. Anyway, this is my studio. It's a bit of a, I really like my studio. My studio is great. I'm using it for teaching, which wasn't the plan at the beginning, so the lighting and everything was for me rather than for having students, but I have a couple of classes. I used to teach a little more, but I'm sort of, how would I put it? More self-centered now. I store my paintings in the back over here, and I've got lots of paintings there. So most of them are stored away so you can't see them. These are my my sketchbooks, but I don't do as much as I used to. But these are all my sketchbooks, like this. So when I travel, which I used to travel a lot, I always bring these books with me. So they have all these portraits. And I get these when I'm sitting in the airport. So sometimes people get up and move, or they're talking, or they've got friends. That's what I do. So I have all these books here. You can see how many I've got. This one I really like.
So each one of these books are filled?
Filled. They're all filled, yeah, with drawings. This one here, I went to China, and this was going up the Yangtze River. But what I like was, let's see if I can find them. That's my son playing. Oh, here they are. So these were going up the Yangtze River, and it was a rainy day, and I was on the ship going up the Yangtze River, and I've got, these are orange trees, and it was like these rock outcroppings. It was almost like the field had been terraced. But these are all done with Chinese ink and brush. And this was an island with two little houses on it, I guess a barn and a house. It was going to be flooded. So I liked I think I've got an end of that as well. My paintings are basically I develop theories on the universe and the earth. And so all my paintings, or not all, but most of my paintings are on ideas I have, which disagree with current scientific university and postgraduate teachings.
Yeah.
And I've had some professors, doctors of geology and stuff, acknowledge what I'm doing, but most universities don't think I'm a little bit of a nutcase, but I think they're all wrong. And I asked them to prove that I'm wrong, and I have a couple climatologists that agree with me and stuff. So, but I do my paintings so that my ideas are kept. So each of the paintings, like this one here, for example, I'll show you. This painting here is on how I feel the Earth developed. And it's basically showing four sides of the Earth. And the key to this is that they all fit together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. And here you've got a small version of what the Earth looked like a couple of, billions of years ago. And this is what it looks like now. And what I did was I took this globe and I traced all the continents. And then I took the tracings and put them on this smaller globe. So, and if you notice, they fit without any overlapping and without any empty spaces. So to do a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle like that is, it couldn't be coincidence. There must be some reality. So all these things go together. I've got one over here, you can look down here if you want to, is a theory I have on this painting here is a theory I have on gravity. And she is Catherine Van de Graaff. And I don't know if you know the Van de Graaff generator, but when you put your hands on it, your hair stands on end. Yeah. And I have a theory that I've been working on that gravity is basically caused by static. And the Earth really, it's important to look at the atmosphere. And this is a frame, I'm just starting a painting here. This one here is the frame, and I got the frame almost finished. I would say it's finished. And this is going to be, I'm starting to work on drawings for that painting there. And it's a sort of circus. I like circuses. Okay, and I've got one painting that I'm working on, which you can have a look at. All these drawings are things I'm working on. These are left over from my students, all these easels, but I use them as well. So when I start a painting, I usually start like this, very rough. I draw it, and then I start to develop it. This is the one for that frame over there. And it's basically the theme of the painting has to do with a Ferris wheel. And, but I want the horses and the rides to be really energetic, and rather than sort of riding around on a little horse, I want them to be riding on horses that are really almost out of control. So that's the idea. So I develop that, then I do these things here. I always take my models and I start off nude and then I dress them afterwards. So these are drawings of a painting that's on my easel right now. So this one has to do with meteor strikes and craters. And the craters and meteor strikes I can show you over here if you can squeeze through here. This, I'm working on this painting is wet, but I'll take this piece of paper off. So yeah, I keep my paints all organized this way, and I mix my paints on this table. So I have a mixing table. So that way I've got my paintings there, and then I freeze them if I put them. So this is here. This is just in the works, this painting. And here, this painting is about meteor strikes. Now the thing that's interesting, the key that is important, is the meteors always come in at an angle. Okay? They always come in at an angle. But all the things that they say are meteor strikes are all perfectly circular, which doesn't make sense because they should be ellipses or something, but they're all circular. So my feeling is they're not really meteor strikes, but they're probably methane explosions. Anyway, that's basically that theory. So this one I'm just doing the painting on it. And I have a whole series. This one is painting on an Indian goddess called Saraswati, and it has to do with global warming and what happens with global warming. So, because global warming over the past 400,000 years has just been like a cyclical event that keeps occurring. So climatologists today say it's all our fault, you know, but really my feeling is no matter what we do, it's going to get warmer. And the oceans are going to rise because they've been doing that 3 or 4 times in the past 400,000 years. So why are we going to stop now? It's just going to continue. Anyway, that's what that painting is about. The thing that's interesting about Saraswati is that there's a mythical river in Hinduism. There's a mythical river called Saraswati River, which would be probably today in Pakistan. And they've flown over Pakistan and they can see where this river comes down in the sand, like it's dry now. But the mythology is this river keeps repeating over and over. So this mythology probably is at least 20,000 years old, but it must be older than that because they say it reappears and reappears. Anyway, she's also the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. So maybe it's time we learn something. And this one here, which is up, you see upside down, is a fairly big painting. And I have, that also is, she's Essa, which is the Egyptian goddess, and she also is knowledge. So usually I base my paintings on
One of my favorites ones is when, like,
Christopher Columbus?
Yeah, and he's giving the Marlboro cigarettes.
Oh yes.
I love that one.
I had a theory about Christopher Columbus, all this mythology, and I wanted to make a painting look mythological. And the cigarettes are what the native Americans were giving to the Europeans, as well as the Europeans giving stuff to the
I love that one.
Yeah.
I had this house 25 years ago, but when did you move to Naples, and were you painting before? I know you're doing.
I was painting before. I was living in Nova Scotia. I had moved from Montreal and came to Florida. I bought a house down here, and then I split up with my wife, and I ended up in Nova Scotia, and I was there for 2 years, which I really liked. I really liked Nova Scotia. It's great, and so I was painting there, And I studied classical guitar. I was doing classical guitar, but I always painted. I had a stained glass studio for a while, which was with my architectural antique business in Montreal. So that sort of fulfilled my artistic side. I went to a school that had a good art department in undergraduate. Even though I had a business degree, I took those as electives. But in Nova Scotia, I was painting, and I came back to Naples, and I said, well, what am I going to do with my life? And I figured, okay, what I'm going to do is I want to paint, but I gave myself a year, and I said something has to happen, and I won a prize, which was a little art association prize, not too grand, but for me it was a major event, and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But I was studying classical guitar at the same time, but one of them had to go because they just take too much time. So I've been painting most of my life, from the time, I would say, in the late 60s. And I wanted to be an artist then, but when the school I went to was a very small school in the country, in the suburbs of Montreal, but it was basically in the countryside. And my guidance teacher said, no, 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 you can't do that. You're never going to make any money. But it's probably true, but she said, they didn't have any art in the school. They didn't have any art at all. So I've wanted to do it for a long time. But then when I went to Vancouver, I was working on my MBA and was accepted to Berkeley, and I thought, can't do this another year. This is really terrible. My marks were okay, but I really didn't like quantitative methods, and statistical analysis was like, oh no, but I was getting good marks, but still. So I took some courses, and I said, I need something more artistic, so I took a degree in architecture, figuring that would be good, and realized that it didn't fulfill what I wanted to do. So then I said, okay, I'm going to be an artist. That's what I'm going to do. My life fell apart, and I thought, well, what am I doing for? To work for a big house in a swimming pool? I said, to hell with this. I'm going to paint. So that's what I did. Luckily, I had made enough money selling architectural antiques in Montreal that I invested the money, and I invested in some good stocks so I could support myself without actually working a straight job, which to me, that was really bad. I didn't want to do that. But around the time, just after I bought this house, I lost a lot of money. That was 2008. I lost a lot of money in the market and stuff like that, and I thought I'm going to have to get a job. But I managed to scrounge enough together that I didn't have to work, to me, which was really important. Right now, I don't have any galleries. The best gallery I've had is a gallery that's closed now called OK Harris. But at one time, OK Harris was the gallery, Ivan Karp, who worked with Leo Castelli, who were responsible for all the people like Rauschenberg and Andy Warhol and Stella and all those people, all the big artists of the 20th century, and he liked my work, so that was Ivan Karp. Anyway, and I sold a couple paintings through him, but then the economy turned really sour, and he said to have me and his stable of artists, he said, I've got these people I have to keep, so I didn't. So that was the best gallery I've had. But I've had galleries here in Palm Beach, in Atlanta, and all different galleries. But right now, I'm kind of more interested in painting and writing, and it takes an awful lot of energy and money to get a gallery. It's really, it's a pain in the butt. And my work is too confusing for the galleries, because when I want the paintings, they all have their theories behind them. So I've tried to keep them together as well. I was selling landscapes and figurative stuff, portraits and things. But so these I'm working on because my theories to me are too important, and they may not be totally correct, but I know they've got some validity. So I want to keep those together. So that's basically what I do. So each of the paintings has a different theory of that. It's like the speed of light. Okay, the speed of light is Einstein has the idea of the speed of light. Well, the speed of light is variable depending on what it goes through. If it goes through plastic, if it goes through air, if it goes through hot air, cold air, it's always different. And we assume the speed of light in A vacuum is 186,000 miles per second. However, there's no such thing as a vacuum. Even between the stars, even between the galaxies, there's dust and cloud and stuff like this that's there. So if plastic or air or water slows down the speed of light, we calculate the speed of light between Earth and Uranus or Jupiter. We can do those, but when you get closer to the sun, the atmosphere in our solar system gets denser and denser. It's going to slow down. So it means that when you're in space, further out between the galaxies, the speed of light would be a lot faster. Why is the speed of light 186,000 miles a second? It's really instantaneous, and it's when it hits all this dust and everything that it goes through, it slows it down because it has to pass through it. So that's what happens. And if you look at this telescopes, space is just full of junk. No matter if you're between galaxies or whatever, there's dust and dark matter or whatever. It's all there. So that, to me, is one of the fundamental axioms of science, which is incorrect. So once you have these axioms incorrect, everything else changes. And to me, that's really important. So I have one painting on the speed of light. I have another painting on global warming. Not that global warming doesn't exist, but not for the reasons that climatologists say it does. And then one on here, I have all these different theories. So anyway, that's what keeps me busy. And
is there anything else you want to say? Or?
I don't know. I mean, I could talk all the time, but you don't want to have too much stuff.